A lot of rural area we have like about they seeing 15 to 20 patients a day, and they only have one physician there, and that's just unacceptable. So that's one area that we really need to start concentrating on. The people that take care of us, it's time for us to take care of them now.
Well, I absolutely agree with you. You know, the issue with veterans is multifaceted. You've got health care issues, you've got mental health issues. You've got nursing home issues, and you've got another one called the widow's tax that I'll talk about in a minute. We started a lot last year looking at the veterans issues when it came to light of the conditions in some of the nursing homes. And so that's why we've had the bill to try to make sure that they report back and they report accurately. So when people are making a decision about their loved ones, a veteran for a nursing home, they're going to have a full report. It's going to be transparent. They're going to see what's going on, and they can make it the right decision for their family. That hadn't been done before. We did some things last year to try to help veterans' health care. It is an incredibly difficult problem to tackle because there's so many veterans, and the Veterans Administration is the largest department of the United States. It's incredible what we're trying to do. But it's an especially problem in a state like Alabama when you got veterans spread throughout, and there's veterans in rural areas have trouble getting to these clinics, have trouble getting to hospitals in the urban areas. You are absolutely right that we have got to try to do a better job to make sure that we have good access. I am not for privatizing the veterans' health care. At the same time, we've also got to depend on some private care to make sure that we get the care to everyone that we see. We need to make sure we do grade those facilities, as you discussed, and we got to make sure that folks have enough doctors. A doctor shortage and a primary care shortage is not just a problem with the veterans, it's a problem nationwide. And we're trying to address the primary care shortage around the country with incentives for people, loan forgiveness, those kind of things that can put primary care physicians in some of the rural areas. You know, the last thing I want to mention to you, and this is one of the things that I have been absolutely leading the charge on, and that's eliminating the widow's tax for veterans, surviving spouses of veterans who have died as a result of a service-related injury or illness. For 40 years, these veterans are not getting all they deserve. They pay into and get extra insurance, but yet when it comes to time to pay out those benefits, the VA and the Department of Defense deduct a certain amount, so they're only getting about maybe 55 or 60% of what they're due. We've got a bill pending. This has been going on for 40 years, and it just came to my attention last year. I had no idea, and we started a crusade to really get into this. I've got a bill now that I've been leading the charge on. 75 co-sponsors, guys. 75. 3/4 of the United States Senate has signed on to my bill to eliminate this, and we're hoping we're going to get that in our national defense authorization very soon. But that's an important issue. It is the top issue for most of the veterans groups around the country that I've been dealing with. I've been coordinating and talking to all of them over the last couple of months.
Well, thank you. And one other thing I want to address, in light of what happened on last weekend with the shooting, we have, I guess, that concerns hits back here in Alabama as far as our schools and for as having a resource officer there in our school. And that's something that I've talked with some of the elected officials, and that's a concern of them also. They want to be somewhat proactive instead of just waiting for something like that to happen, because we have pretty much zero resource officer here in our rural schools. And the last thing that I would like for you to just elaborate on just a little is the infrastructure here in our area, in the southeast counties, and that's been a major issue. We have
East-West corridor.
We have two areas. We have 21 that goes straight through Monroe there to Atmore, and it's a one lane. And there in the southern part of Baldwin and Mobile, we have the Airbus there. We have the Porter there, and that's going to be a major artery coming out of Mobile into Monroe. And I think that was going to be one of the keys to bringing more economic development into the county. So
right.
we just...
Well,
So we need the additional funding for that.
Yeah, let's talk real quick. Last year I sponsored and we've enacted going back to the schools. There is money out there. We enacted the Safe School Act, the Eagles Act, to try to get more resource officers and to harden schools to make sure our children are protected. When I was going to school, this was just not something people had to think of, and now we do. It's really a frightening world that we're living in right now, that we have to protect our school children the way that we do. But there is resources out there that we were able to do. I was co-sponsor of both of those bills. There's resources out there to kind of help that. I think one of the things that we're trying to do with our state offices is to try to make sure people know those and are aware of that, because there's a lot of things that the federal government has done, particularly last year with the bills that I sponsored, to try to give extra money to do things for these local school systems. They've just got to know about it and apply for it. We talked about the infrastructure issue at the town hall recently, and those are, again, I think there's two things. Number one, there is money out there as part of our regular Department of Transportation budget that will help infrastructure issues. There's not going to be a giant infrastructure bill like has been talked about. I don't believe, unfortunately, will happen because of tax cuts that were enacted a couple of years ago that are, have hurt the revenues that are coming into the government. But there's still a lot of money out there, and the infra grants are out there. There's other kind of monies through the Department of Transportation. One of the things that we talked about when I was at your town hall that I've tried to do in a bill called the it was an infrastructure bill for evacuation routes. In South Alabama in particular, whether it's a hurricane, a tornado, bad weather moving in, we need to make sure that people can get out of the area as safely and as quickly as possible. So I introduced a bill along with senators, two Republicans, Senator Kennedy and Senator Cassidy, both from Louisiana, who have the same problem, that would create a new pot of money in the Department of Transportation to help the infrastructure for evacuation routes. That's just kind of thinking outside the box of how we can do things, and it gives a reason other than just good highways. There's reasons for that. All of those routes that you're talking about would be considered a rural evacuation route under my bill. My bill recently was rolled into a bigger highway bill that passed the Senate Environmental and Public Works Committee almost unanimously the other day. We're hoping we can get it into a bigger bill. But there's money there. There are things that we can do. What I would also suggest is that the county commissioners, the local mayors in these counties, not just right there in Monroeville and Monroe County, but get to surrounding counties and let's get together, come up to D.C. and sit down with our folks and let's map this out, see what we can do to help. My chief of staff worked at the Department of Transportation under President Obama for 7 years. So we know where there are the pots of the money. We just got to make sure other people know about it and we can get it there.
Outstanding.
Okay, I got one more question for you. That's on that east-west corridor. In Alabama, you got a north east-west corridor. You got the 65 running the full length of Alabama, but down south here, 84 is the east-west corridor down the lower part of Alabama. That really needs to be 4-lane. Is doing a lot of stuff over on the east side of Alabama, and some portions over on the west side of Alabama. But through Monroe County and this area down here, that's bad. That's needed badly. And I know.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I think, candidly, I think that is a perfect candidate if we can get this bill passed that got voted out. My bill about rural evacuation routes. Sometimes you just need to couple a project like that is not only going to bring economic development. We couple that with a safety issue and a safety thing, and we can demonstrate the need for evacuation routes in South Alabama. We are subject to hurricanes. We're subject to tornadoes, all manner of weather-related issues that we got to deal with. So that's a perfect candidate for that at the time. We're hoping it can get in. But again, I think one of the things that folks, and what I'm seeing success with since I've been in the Senate, when folks in several communities, a couple of counties that all are joined that have an interest in for instance, 84, it doesn't just run through one county or one community. Band together, talk to each other, and lay out a plan. Come visit with us, and then that's how we can get the first step. Because from there, we can help start looking for that money that already exists in our budget at the Department of Transportation, or maybe even somewhere else if we need to try to help with that. It's a long-term process, but we got to start. We got to just start that process and just never give up. Just don't take no for an answer, because too many times people will apply for these grants to get turned down and they just don't go back to the well. We just need to be, in there every year to get our share of this. And let me mention this too, because I want to kind of maybe end on this because I'm getting ready to head out of town.
Okay.
Coupled with this, all this infrastructure and highway dollars and things that go to states, so much is dependent on a state's population. There are formulas for that, and so much is dependent on the population. So I want to encourage everybody, it's the churches, the community centers, everybody, when it's time to do the census, we need to make sure we count every person in Alabama.
Absolutely.
Every person needs to be. We have to do that because we are in danger of losing a congressional seat, but more importantly, so much of the dollars that come into our state are based on our population.
Right.
So we got to count everybody, and it doesn't matter who they are. And everybody needs to help their friends, their family, their neighbors, the members of their churches, the member of their schools. Everybody needs to be talking about that census when it comes up next year, and be ready for it. And let's get every person counted. Last year, the last census, we only had about 72% of the people of Alabama that filled out. 72, 75. If we do that again this year, we are definitely going to lose one congressional seat, and we may be in danger of losing two.
Yeah.
We got to get above 80% in order to keep what we got.
Okay, well then, Senator Jones, I thank you. Brother Marsh, appreciate the time.
Absolutely.
And here, that what you just got through saying, I know you got your hands full. If y'all could do something around 2020 from y'all's perspective, put it out there and blast Alabama. Get don't run away from the census, man. Fill that stuff out, and because that's gonna help us. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thank y'all for. I've enjoyed this. Hope to do it again sometime soon. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Senator.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh man. That was awesome.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Not a problem.
Okay, that's about 21 minutes. I'm gonna go. That's you. I had a couple of calls. One from Reverend Corey, and I should have invited him to come on up like I did you, because when you're doing an interview like this. With a cell phone, is one line. The only way you can get in is 5 or 6 mics like we got set up here. So I'm going to give him a call back and see did he want to have an input in there. He can still add it. I'm going to call him right now. Reverend Corey Morrow. He called us while we were doing the interview. We were not able to.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system. 25136222312 is not available. The mailbox is full and cannot accept any messages at this time. Goodbye.
That was Reverend Corey Morrow we was trying to reach. He tried to call in while we were doing the interview. We had only one line on the cell phone. But anyway, we hope that if you have any input, we can get it on with this broadcast here. Brother Marshall, you have anything you want to add? We got time to talk and.
Absolutely. Well, we need to get the word out in each one of our communities. Monroe, Peterman, Tunnel Spring, Beatrice, Reddenburg. We have a very important election coming up in 2020. Mm-hmm. And we went out and we secured a record amount of